If you ever have to change oils or you feel you have some contamination in your oil tank and you just want to flush the tank out, there's a couple of simple things that we need to do to gain access to that oil tank. The first thing is to remove the oil tip from the head block assembly. And we're going to take a rag and wrap it around that tip and just put it in the corner by this proximity switch so it's facing straight up in the air. We're then going to roll our head back to the 10-pin side plate, and that'll allow us to open this lid as far as we can. Now, the oil tank, pump motor, and gauge assembly is all going to be mounted to this metal plate. So it all removes as one thing. The next thing we would do would be to unplug the wiring harness and the hose that goes from the oil control valve to the pencil tip. We also have two 1/4-20 bolts that go through the rear wall and the plate that holds all of these parts on it. So once we've removed both of the bolts, we should simply be able to lean the assembly forward just a little bit, and we're going to pick that straight up and out of the lane machine. Okay, now we will take it into the workshop to drain out that excess oil. Now that we've located a jug to drain the oil into, we're going to show you how easy this really is. The first thing we're going to do is remove the cap from the oil tank. And I like to hold on underneath the pump motor. We're going to take a rag, lay it right on the side of the tank, and then just tip that into the funnel. Now, once all the oil is drained out of the tank, we then recommend that you flush the tank out with maybe some isopropyl alcohol, then put some new oil back in it, and flush out the lines of your lane machine. Now that we've cleaned out the tank, we're going to replace it and then fill it back up with the new oil. And once we drop it back in there, the holes for the bolts will line up so we can get those started. And we can also plug a wiring harness back in and the hose from the tip to the oil control valve. Now, after we had tightened the hardware back up, we would then remove the oil cap, fill it back up with the oil that we're going to use, and we would unplug the return line on the other side of the reducer fitting, because you can see that this is a smaller hose than the one that we just unplugged. We'd then take a piece of 1/4-inch hose out of our accessory kit and plug it into that fitting and run that hose into a jug for waste or used oil. At that point, we would access our pump from our test output menu, and we'd turn on that output and allow those lines to flush out so we got all the old oil out of any of the lines in the lane machine. Once we flushed it out, we would remove this hose, plug it back into our return line, and we should be able to go out and oil lanes.